to our Kids Edition with our guest, Dutch Schultz, featuring LaurenOlivia. But
what's up, guys, and welcome to our Kids Edition. This week's topic is wildfires. Our guest speaker today is Lieutenant Dutch Schultz. He works for Missouri City's Fire Department. At the very end, we're going to have closing remarks and get everybody's thoughts, and then we're going to have a sponsor. And today's sponsor is Finally Fit Kids. So without further ado, this is our panel. Give it up for Elizabeth, Noah, Ava, me, your host, and our guest speaker, Lieutenant Dutch Schultz. So Noah, I'm going to let you take over the mic and you can tell a little bit about himself.
our special guest today works for Missouri City Fire Department, works in community engagement. He is a former fireman. He is married. Lieutenant Schultz has 3 kids, 2 girls and 1 boy. Give him a warm Kids Edition welcome. The topic is wildfires. While doing my research, I learned wildfires can be caused by the smallest of things, like twigs being close together or a small spark from a train. Even lightning can cause a fire. Being caught in a wildfire is very serious, which causes people to be evacuated from their homes. We have many first responders like firefighters, police, and EMT to help. LaurenOlivia, for firefighter questions. What causes wildfires? Mr. Schultz.
So there can be a lot of things that cause fires to happen out in the wild, and really what it is, it's vegetation that's catching on fire. The trees, you have a good picture pulled up on your PowerPoint right now. Trees, grass, anything that's kind of a lot of time dries out. So the cause of it can be, like you said, lightning. You brought up a good point. Sparks from a train going by, really any kind of heat source, like if somebody threw a cigarette out the window and the grass was really dry, that could cause it. We've even seen some animals, if there are power lines going over something, if they run over it and they could get electrocuted and fall. I've seen that happen where it'll start the grass on fire. So really a lot of different ways for them to start. And sometimes people just do it on purpose, you know.
Well, thank you for that answer. Next question. How can firefighters control a wildfire?
So in order to control the wildfires, there's kind of going into the fire science aspect of it. There's 3 things that a fire needs to remain on fire. It needs fuel, which can be whatever is burning. And this, we're going to use this picture that's showing the trees would be the fuel in that. You need oxygen, and you need a heat source. So as long as those 3 things remain, then it's going to maintain on fire. So if we can remove one of those, one of the things that we can do is, you know, we put water on fire, right? So what does putting water on a fire actually do? It takes away the heat. It cools it down to the point where it can't burn anymore. With wildfires particularly, that can be a challenge because you've got many, sometimes hundreds or thousands of acres, and you have to bring water in from a long distance, and that's not always the most efficient. So sometimes what they have to do is remove the fuel. And so what do I mean by that? Sometimes they'll dig trenches that will they'll separate and cause a distance between the grass that's burning and grass that the fire can't reach, and that removes what it can burn. So once everything burns out, then it will go out on its own. So that's the kind of the 2 methods. There's not really a great way to remove the oxygen, but they do have you seen the airplanes that come along and drop water, or they drop chemicals on it that'll basically put the fire out? Those are some of the special things they do specifically with wildfires.
Thank you. Next question. Have you ever been in a wildfire in the Houston area?
So I have never been in what you would classify as a wildfire. something that's very large. I have been in some large grass fires, but a lot of that has been out kind of towards the rural areas. With my former department, I worked out in Richmond, and we would go out to the Needville area and kind of out west, really. And there's a lot more grassy areas, some farmland and things. So I've been a part of some large, maybe 100-acre grass fires, things like that, but nothing to the extent that they're seeing out west.
Next firefighter question. How strong is your fire hose, and do you use it most of the time?
So a lot of the times the hose is kind of our go-to when you talk about fires in the city, or if it's a house or a car or things like that. There is wildland hose that we use that, like I told you earlier, the hard part is getting the water far away. So it's a lot smaller hose. It's almost like a garden hose, and it's really long. And so it won't use a whole lot of water, and it's not very strong. You maybe, less than 100 PSI is what it would take on that. So like I said, most of the time around here, yes, we do use hose, but with wildland, they have so many other tools that they have to use because they may not have enough water to get to where they need to get.
Those were wonderful answers. Thank you so much. The next is Lauren's Black Lives Matter question. Have you ever been treated differently in the workplace because of your high position?
I specifically haven't. I feel like Missouri City is a pretty diverse city, and even the fire department as well. We have a lot of people that come from, all over. We have some people from Canada, from Mexico, from America, of all ethnicities. And I feel like we all pretty much get along, very well as a city.
Well, next person is Elizabeth.
Okay, hello, I'm Elizabeth, and I have some questions for you. As a former firefighter, what impact do you have in the community?
So I guess you guys know I was a firefighter before, and I'm working in administration now under community engagement. Some of the things that I'm able to impact, I kind of had to make a list because there's a lot of them. I work with education of the community. So Fire Prevention Week was last week or 2 weeks ago. So we do a lot with educating all ages from 1 to 100 on fire safety to try to prevent any incidents from happening, whether it's fire or EMS calls and things like that. I organize all of our community events, so I'm able to be out in the public and talk to a lot of people. That helps. I also do recruitment. So if there's people that are interested in becoming a firefighter, they get a hold of me, and I kind of walk them through the steps of how we hire and what requirements you need to be a firefighter and all that. And I work in training as well. So in the times where I'm not doing that, I train some of our guys on the inside of the department.
What programs does Missouri City offer to the community relating to fire education?
So specifically for fire education, like I mentioned, Fire Prevention Week is really a big one in all the fire service. And so that's where we go out into schools. Obviously not this year, we had some challenges, but we go into schools and nursing homes and places where there's a lot of people, and we try to educate them on fire safety. We also have our Citizens Police and Fire Academy that we run. It allows adults to come in from the community and experience some of the things that we do. It's kind of a joint effort that we do with the police department. They get to do a traffic stop or put on the fire gear and see the equipment we use. We'll do we'll cut up a car for a simulated car accident and things like that. We also do a smoke detector blitz every year, which we had to adjust this year, but we go to some of the areas where we look at the numbers and where the majority of our calls are going. If we have a peak area where maybe we're seeing a lot of fires or potential danger, and we'll make sure that everybody in that area has smoke detectors, and we just walk down the street and knock on the door, and if somebody needs it, give them those. We do fire extinguisher education classes. So if there's a company that comes in and wants us to teach them fire extinguishers, we do that. And we're working on implementing an Explorer program for junior firefighters to allow kids from age 16 to 19 to come in and explore what we do. It's kind of similar to our Citizens Police and Fire Academy, but for a younger audience, for high school students.
May you please explain your position as a community engagement officer, Lieutenant?
So kind of like I talked about earlier with, I work on the education and I organize events that we do for the community. And then, I also do some training, and then I'll respond every once in a while. If there's a call and maybe they're low on people, I go to that as well. So it's really a broad group of things that I get to do.
I'm glad to know that Missouri City Fire Department is helping in the community. How long have you been a firefighter, and what do you love most about your job?
So I've been a firefighter since 2002, so 17 years, almost 18 years. And my favorite part of the job is really something that I'm more coming into now, and I got to do on the truck, is just being in the community. Obviously, everybody that's a firefighter likes to help people, so I really enjoy helping. And the position I'm in now allows me to kind of be involved with the community.
BLM questions. Being a fireman was once a job for men only. Have you had the opportunity to work with men and women of color?
We have. We don't have any women of color in the department, but we do have women, and in our admin we do as well. And I feel like as long as somebody can perform the tasks that you have to perform, then everybody should have an equal shot.
She's got a point. She's an icon. She's a legend, and she is the moment. Now, come on now.
Thank you for answering all my questions.
No problem.
Those were amazing questions, Elizabeth. Now we can move on to my questions. As of October 9, 2020, there have been more than 8,500 forest fires, which are fueled from oxygen and heat that comes from climate change. What are firefighters doing or plan to do to reduce the number of forest fires around the United States?
So I think to prevent the fires from occurring, you have to see what the sources are and see what we can change. Some of the natural events are not something that we can stop, but there are some where people have accidents, and that's where we really have to focus our efforts as firefighters to educate the public. These are the things that you're doing that may be making your area more susceptible to having a wildfire. So education is probably the first thing, and as far as it's a step further than prevention, but obviously firefighters have to keep trained as far as fighting the actual fire. So make sure that they are up on all the techniques and are good at their job, so that if we can't prevent something, then we can go do the best we can to get it taken care of as quick as we can.
Next question. 2020 is the most intense season for firefighters. Nearly 3 billion animals were killed or displaced by Australia's devastating wildfires in 2019 and 2020. How do you think this will affect the world's ecosystem?
So this is the one that I was kind of talking about earlier. I'm not exactly an expert on how all the ecosystems work, but I can imagine that if there's a lot more fires and it's causing devastation to a lot of animals, then certain species are probably going to be affected by that. So there's the potential that we could lose some species of animal. So we just have to do our best to try to prevent as much of it as we can.
Thank you. Thank you for answering this question. Next question. June through August is always the season with the most wildfires and has the most intense of wildfires. Why do you think that June through August has the greatest number of wildfires?
So it's the drier months. It's the months of the year where there's more heat and it dries out all the plants, and that's when it's going to be more susceptible for things to start. So in the winter months, like I said, you have to have heat and you have to have a fuel. Well, a lack of heat makes it less likely, not that things won't burn in the wintertime, but it's just less likely. So if you have 100 incidents that could have started a fire, well, maybe 20 of those in the summertime will actually start a fire, and maybe 1 or 2 of those in the wintertime will start a fire. So the drier months make the plants more likely to catch on fire.
Thank you for answering my question. Next question, Black Lives Matter. Have you ever felt like you didn't fit in?
I think to a minor extent, sometimes you get in groups and maybe you don't have the same similar interests as people, but, specifically professionally and what we do, firemen are very, we're similar in, we chose a career in public service and we like helping people. So as far as being in the fire service, I've never really felt like I wasn't a part of the group. And I feel like I've done what I can to make sure that everybody else around me fits into the group as well.
Thank you for answering my questions. Next, we can move over to Ava's questions. Ava, start it off.
Okay. My wildfire statement. A wildfire is an uncontrollable fire that turns in wild land that is often in a rural area. Wildfires can burn forests, grasslands, and more. My firefighter questions. How do people take pictures of wildfires?
So there really can be a lot of them. There's all the way from professional photographers that wait until they hear of an event and they go take pictures, to people in the community that it starts happening in their area. And they, most of the pictures you see are probably from someone's cell phone because everybody's got one and it's easy to have. And then sometimes the firefighters that are actually on the scene will take some pictures of it too. So it's really all over the place as far as where the pictures come from.
Thank you. My next question. How do wildfires start?
So we kind of talked about it in the first group of questions, and basically you have to have a source of heat, and so it can be from a lightning strike or something natural. It can be from somebody throwing a cigarette out the window on the highway. Y'all brought up the point of the train throwing sparks into the grass. It usually starts as something small, and then under the right conditions, it'll grow.
Have you ever seen a wildfire up close?
I have. I haven't seen one as big as the ones that they have out west right now, where it's thousands and thousands of acres. But we have seen grass fires, and some of them that have, some medium-sized trees.
Thank you for answering all my questions.
You're welcome.
So thank you, Lieutenant Schultz. Would we ever come to you to see you do your work, or just to see you and what you do?
Absolutely. Right now with our restrictions that are citywide for COVID, we haven't really opened up as far as having visitors at the station. But when we do open up, you guys are always welcome to come by, and we can do it at a station where you guys can get a tour of the station and see the fire trucks and all that. There is an event today it's through our parks department, but we'll have a fire truck out there. That's a trick or treat event. It's a drive-through. We have a bunch of events going on. Just kind of keep an eye out for those. We advertise pretty well for those. So there's a food drive and some things like that. But just if you guys want to stop by the stations, like I said, right now it's not working, but if you guys want to call me and set up a time, we can do that, or you can just drop in.
Absolutely. And thank to our sponsors, Fictionally Fit. And that's our Black Lives Matter meme for today. Does anybody have questions for Lieutenant Schultz?
I think I have a question.
Okay.
What part of Missouri City is your fire station located?
So I'm located in the administration building, which is off of Cartwright Road. That's also where our station 1 is at. So that's where I'm personally at. And we have 5 stations, and we're currently building a 6th. They're about to start after the first of the year.
Also, fun fact, I live in Missouri City.
Nice. That's awesome.
Well, thank you for doing this for us, because this topic was really important for me, and I was glad that I was able to be the host for today.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate the questions. We always love helping out whenever we can, and I think y'all had a great list of questions, and hopefully you guys learned something today from me.
I'm pretty sure we did.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You guys take care, okay?
Okay.